Well, as the situation deteriorates in Sri Lanka, joining us on NDTV this evening is Arjuna Ranatunga, former cricket captain and former minister straight from Sri Lanka. Mr. Ranatunga, let me just first ask you, your reaction to Gotabaya Rajapaksa's latest statement today, where he's tweeted appealing for calm, saying that all efforts will be made to restore political stability through consensus within a constitutional mandate and to resolve the economic crisis. In other words, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's what we feel. But if you go back to yesterday, what has happened yesterday, we all know. But some of the chief priests in this country, religious leaders, went to see the president last night. Apparently, when they came out, they said that the president is very keen to have a prime minister, independent prime minister, which there were a couple of names came. Former Speaker Karu Jayasuriya to be appointed as a Prime Minister, caretaking Prime Minister, and government with the parliamentary all party leaders. So that is the conclusion they came up. But apparently they were supposed to meet today, and nothing has happened. Only unfortunate thing is this violence had to be stopped. Whether it is for the government institutions or the private entity, I think it should be stopped. This, I personally feel, knowing the Sri Lankan public, they are not acting the way they are acting today. There are some groups behind these people. I don't know whether it is done by the Rajapaksas or someone else, but that is something all are concerned, because we are a very peaceful nation compared to some of the other people. But why they come into the roads? Yes, can do protests, can shout at the politicians, throw stones, but firing houses, the government institution, it's not the solution for this crisis.
But can I ask you that would any solution where Gotabaya Rajapaksa remains president be acceptable to the protesters? Those who've been protesting peacefully have had a single point demand in the last few weeks, which is that Gota needs to go, right? So will even a caretaker, temporary arrangement be acceptable to them under him?
I'm not expert on this. I'm not a legal guy, but what I was told, they have to appoint a caretaking government. When the caretaking government takes over, that is where, if necessary, the president can be taken off, or he can step down. So there are a lot of ideas, and a lot of people talk about it. But what they need now is to stabilize this country. First, stabilize the country by appointing a prime minister, appointing a very small cabinet, maybe about 10 or 15. Then take it up from there. I think I saw article, I saw news saying that the speaker has informed the president to call the parliament. I don't know whether there's a safety on some of the MPs, or whether we can start a parliament at this time. So we need to very quickly act on these things rather than sitting on the chairs and talking about it.
Right. How worried are you, though, that things have taken a critical turn for the worse? We've seen so many homes of members of the ruling party that have been set on fire by protesters. Things are clearly violent. You've had an MP losing his life. How worried are you?
The problem is why these protesters came into the road. That's mainly they were concerned about living standards. They were not asking for big things. They were asking for very basic needs for the children and for them. Then they were protesting for 30 days without a single violation. They were very, very calm, very peaceful. And only last morning, with this prime minister's supporters came into the temple trees, and they wanted him to stay back. This is all set up by some of the ministers. And that is where all these people went to the golf face, where all these peaceful demonstrators were staying. And that is where all these issues started. But what I personally feel, burning houses, burning government institutions, or the vehicles, the police vehicle, it's not the solution. What they need to do is, if they have this particular protest, look at the end rather than having a military government. That is where I will say, this is the exact thing some of these people wanted, to have a military government, if they are going to behave like this. So I'm little concerned about the situation which some of these people are going into burning the house.
But
and
would you want,
attacking.
do you think Mr. Rajapaksa should step down as president? Will that help? Will that calm tempers?
I think it has to be under the constitution. I don't know the law, but apparently if the prime minister comes in, then he can step down as the president. So that is where I personally feel we should take on, rather than just throwing the president out. Then no one will be there to run the country. First, we have to have a small cabinet with the prime minister. Then the president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, can step down. And I think we might have to consult the legal expertise and see how we can take it up. It's not a small thing. It's not a playground we are looking at.
Well, Mr. Ranatunga, one final question. The Rajapaksas have dominated the political landscape in Sri Lanka for years now. And this has been a stunning fall from grace in so many ways. In a sense, is this the end of the road for this political dynasty? Or never say never?
No, tell you honestly, I left Rajapaksas in 2008. Why I left Rajapaksas was I was not comfortable with some of the things they were doing. And unfortunately, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa, he's one person who worked on the war. But unfortunately, the way they are trying to treat the Rajapaksas, why they got into this mess, because they were so powerful after 2020. They were very arrogant, they were very cocky, the ministers were behaving like thugs. So this is where the entire country went to pieces. And what Rajapaksas did? Nothing. For the 2 years, they were not doing anything for the people. And I think it's end of the road for all the Rajapaksas. I think it has to, that is what people want.
All right. Well, Mr. Ranatunga, thanks for joining us, keeping a close eye there on the situation as it develops. Thank you.
Thank you.